Vigilante wins here with a very simple question. That's how good or bad is CJ Stroud? A lot has been made of his career, especially that first year, one of the best rookie years we've seen for a quarterback. And second year, kind of middling. I think mid is not quite appropriate. I think he still had a solid second year. Didn't quite match the first, but it was still solid. The third year had some injuries, had two of the worst playoff games I've ever seen. A lot of turnovers, though you can argue in that first game with the Steelers, a lot of those fumbles were the center's fault as well. But all the picks, I honestly am worried that he might have had some neurological issues. At least some sort of, I don't know if PTSD is the right word, but there's something going on with him post concussions. And this is not his first one. He had a concussion his rookie year. He had a concussion this year or this past year in 2025. And he looked a lot worse when he came back. He never looked quite right to me. So, how do you assess this player? Well, what he did in the playoffs is unacceptable. There's no doubt about that. Even if I think he might have some neurological issues, which I'm not a doctor, I don't know. He played too poorly. A lot has been made. Did he cost a championship for Houston? I don't know if that's quite as strong, because I don't know if this team was ever good enough to win a championship. Though I did pick them to win the Super Bowl. Oh no, I didn't pick them to win. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I actually picked the Lions to win. That didn't work out for either team, though at least Houston made it to the playoffs. That notwithstanding, while this defense is incredible with Stingley, Lassiter, and of course Will Anderson Jr., Daniil Hunter, they have just a pretty good team. You know, Petrie, Toa. It's a pretty good team, pretty solid defense. But the offense, I mean, how good has this offense been really? I honestly think that first year, a lot of it was Nico Collins breaking out, and he had a chemistry, talking about CJ. CJ had a real chemistry with Tank Dell, and then the second year, Tank Dell goes down. Not the whole season, but that tail end of the season. And all of a sudden, CJ Stroud's a little bit worse. And you can argue with the second year, okay, they actually had a running game, which they haven't most of his career. I think he's the 31st worst supported quarterback when it comes to runs. But they had a decent running game with Joe Mixon. Only God knows what happened to Joe Mixon for 2025. And yeah, they did have Stephon Diggs and, like I said, Tank Dell and Nico Collins, but they weren't healthy all at once. And then the offensive line, the much maligned offensive line, you know, it's not that great, and it hasn't been that great the whole time. And hopefully this year is going to be improved. Hopefully the running situation is going to be improved when it comes to Woody Marks and my guy Knuckles, a.k.a. D-Mont, a.k.a. David Montgomery from the Lions, which I hate to see him go because I am a Lions fan. But it is what it is, and I think he'll be good for the Texans, and hopefully the Texans will have a more competent offense this year than they've had really the whole time CJ's been there. Like I said, that first year, the receivers were going well and everything went well. And I think there was also that kind of rookie surprise. People weren't expecting him to be as good as he turned out to be. And so you had a good first year. And the second year, there were more issues, and you saw more issues. I'm not sure that any old quarterback would just win a Super Bowl with this team, because the offense isn't quite there. Hell, if you took the Super Bowl winning quarterback and you cloned him and he could play for both Seattle and the Texans, I'm not sure if maybe they could have conceivably beat the Patriots and made it to the Super Bowl. And I say that because obviously, if you remember, the Broncos quarterback Bo Nix got hurt in the divisional round, I believe. And so you knew for the AFC Championship game that he wouldn't be there. And so, yeah, maybe they could have beat the Patriots. I'm not sure they would have, but maybe, because all those turnovers played a huge role. The Texans defense actually played pretty solid, if not above average. They really beat up Drake May Drake May. I don't know how the hell you say it on the internet, but they really beat up Drake May. So, yeah, maybe they could have. But honestly, if they would have matched up against the Seahawks and you have this clone Darnold, in my weird analogy, Darnold would have had this version of Darnold, the Houston Darnold, would have had less assets and less talent around him. And he might have been seeing ghosts like an older version of Darnold. Either the Vikings won or the Jets. Hell, if you go back to the Vikings and you look at their current quarterback, and I'm not talking about your guy 9, but talking about Kyler Murray, I'm not sure he would do that much better with this team as it is, or as it was, I should say. Honestly, I think a lot of quarterbacks would struggle to generate points with this offense. And not only from a personnel standpoint, I mean, yes, you do have Nico Collins, one of the better receivers in the league, so I don't want to totally be disparaged to this offense. But Nico does have his own health issues. He consistently misses games. You have a decent tight end in Schultz. He's been decent. I'll give him credit as decent. The running situation hasn't been consistent. Still don't know what happened to Joe Mixon after 2024. Not sure what happened for 2025. I remember a lot was made of Nick Chubb joining the team in 2025, but that was not under the impression that he would be the lead guy. The thought was Joe Mixon would still be the lead running back, and then you would have a three-headed monster with not just Mixon, but Chubb and Woody Marks. Ended up Woody Marks being the main running back as a rookie. He didn't really get used in the role he was supposed to. Now, hopefully that's a little bit better with David Montgomery now. But CJ hasn't got much support from the running game. And the receiver situation, there's been a lot of health issues over the course of the few years he's had with receivers. And only God knows if Tank Dell will ever play again and at what level. You had the 2 rookies last year, Noel and Higgins, and they're still rookies. So we'll see what happens. Their development is going to be necessary going forward. My whole point is to say, CJ, yes, this defense is incredible, but this offense is not, and it has not been. And the coordination with Nick Caley leaves a lot to be desired, just like Bobby Slowett left a lot to be desired. I'm not trying to cape for CJ. I'm not trying to say CJ doesn't have his role, especially the last few years, and especially that playoff game. It's unacceptable. Some of the worst quarterbacking anyone's ever seen. I'm not trying to cape, but I am trying to say, this offense doesn't always have the resources put toward it that the defense had. This is not necessarily a balanced team. I think this is my real reason for making this video. This is not a situation where this is a ready-made team that has everything it needs, but if it just had a quarterback. Like, this is not, to me, like the Ryan Tannehill Tennessee Titans, where they had A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry and a solid defense and Mike Vrabel, and that's not what this is to me. This is a team with a really good defense and a below mid offense, and they had a quarterback that had a really good year, and he's not been as good since. And I honestly think, as much as we want to say quarterback's the best position or the most important position, there's a lot of quarterbacks that need to be elevated, as we saw from Sam Darnold himself. He won because the team around him was good. And I think hopefully that paradigm shifts, because I think one of the big issues is these quarterbacks making way too much money, and now these teams aren't able to build. Hell, if there's any positive of CJ having his issues, is that he's not under contract for a massive contract. I don't think these quarterbacks can really win without the infrastructure built pretty high up for them. I mean, those Tom Brady type quarterbacks come once every other generation, And I think people think that you can just put any old quarterback there and they're just going to be at a high level. It's like, not without good receivers, not without good offensive line and good offensive coordination. There's a lot of quarterbacks at this same tier. Some of them do well, some of them don't. Even my guy Goff, I like Jared Goff. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks. Statistically, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. If you switch places and had CJ Stroud in Detroit with all those weapons and an offensive line that even at its worst was much better than this Texans line has pretty much ever been for CJ, I think he would have better production. And if you took Jared Goff and put him here, yeah, they would have a really good defense, but I don't know how good the offense would be. And he already had that when he was in LA with the Rams, where he had Aaron Donald and a great defense, and he wasn't able to get it done. I hate to shit on Jared Goff. Hopefully he can get it done with us this year. But I'm just saying, and not just Jared Goff, I mentioned Kyler Murray. You can toss Trevor Lawrence in this situation. Now that he has a bunch of receivers around him, he's doing good. But his first few years, he did have the 1 year with that crazy comeback game. So I don't want to totally shit on him. But, I mean, most of his career, he's looked kind of below par until recently. But then when he has weapons, they go 13-4. You know what I'm saying? There's a bunch of quarterbacks. You got Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's why he's so controversial. What about Geno Smith? I know people just look at him as a bust because of his Raiders year, but think about how much better he was with the Seahawks. When there's a better infrastructure, he had a 10-win season and a year where he had like 4,000 yards. And then when he's in worse infrastructure, he's terrible. That's what quarterbacks are right now. We don't have all those greats. I think there's more quarterbacks in this class than are not. We got so used to the Peyton, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers is still around. We got used to these quarterbacks just being so ubiquitous where there was like 15 of the greatest quarterbacks that would ever quarterback all playing. I don't know if 15, but at least 10 of them were basically all playing at the same time. And that ain't happening again. That's not what we got now. So it's not the most important position in sports. And there's a lot of quarterbacks that wouldn't win with this, even with a good defense, because the offense is not that great. There's not a lot of talent around. I mean, you got Nico. I don't want to keep, because Nico is one of the better receivers in the league when he's healthy. But I'm just saying, you know, we've seen quarterbacks fail with good defense, even though this is one of the best defenses I've ever seen, especially in recent years. There's not been a lot of offensive talent until this year, and there's still a lot to be decided about these receivers. CJ still has his issues. He has some health issues, and not just the neurological stuff. He had an arm injury last year before the preseason, or I don't know if it was before the preseason or when it happened, but he had some arm stuff that supposedly hampered his offseason. So I guess the long and short, CJ Stroud has to play better. There's no doubt about that. But this offense has to play better. The people around him also have to play better. The offensive line has been improved upon. You're still relying on those young receivers to make strides. The running back room has been improved upon. So you are hoping for a better year, but I'm still worried about neurological issues. And okay, if I'm right, which I hope I'm not, who are you going to bring in? Not just for the short term, okay, Davis Mills, shout out to Mills Mafia, but even long term. Let's say CJ, you know, he's a complete bust. You bring in another quarterback. Is that quarterback going to succeed here? Is he going to succeed with Kelly? Is he going to succeed with a subpar offensive line? Or would he have succeeded? Now, maybe the offensive line has been improved to the point where a quarterback can succeed. Let's hope so for the Texans. But CJ has not been dealt the easiest hand of cards. Hasn't been dealt the worst because of that defense. But offensively, as you talk about the offensive talent around him and the consistency of that offensive talent, he's had injuries at the wide receiver position, injuries at the running back position, and just a porous offensive line. So while CJ Stroud may not be perfect, and he played his worst ball in his last games in the playoffs, if he does not have neurological disorders, which I'm hoping he doesn't, and you can never tell in this tough game, I think if the team around him is solid, he'll play solid. He's not the quarterback that maybe you projected him to be after that first year. I say you, me, all of us. He's not necessarily this guy who can necessarily elevate his team, but I think similar to a Darnold, and I keep bringing him up, he can be a guy that if the team's good enough, he can cash it in. I do think he has that potential, particularly because you look at some of the young quarterbacks. You look at a Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, and some of these guys, and CJ Stroud has more playoff wins than them. So you got, and yes, the defense had a lot to do with it, but his play had a lot to do with it. I mean, I'm going back, speaking of Herbert, I remember that Chargers game, and the defense played well, but there was a point where, you know, the Chargers had a pretty good defense too, and both defenses are locked in place, and it's kind of a defensive battle. And later in the second half, or second quarter, I should say, I think it was still the first half, if I remember, CJ makes a play where he runs to one side in the backfield and makes a throw and gets a first down that they really needed, and all of a sudden the offense gets going. Before you know it, you have a blowout. That play he made was so clutch and so timely, and it changed the whole way the game played. So he's been a part of these playoff wins. Maybe not the last one, but he's been part of these other playoff wins, and he's a good quarterback. If he has the team around him, he's not a guy who can elevate his team, at least not at this point. And if he's healthy, because I don't know if he's healthy, and I don't know that he was healthy when he got back last year. So if he doesn't have any issues, I think he'll have a much improved year. This will be a quote-unquote bounce-back year. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on CJ Stroud? Do you love him? Do you hate him? What are your thoughts on the Texans and their chances for a Super Bowl or at least playoff success? Let me know. Please hype up the video if you like it. If you like the video, please like the video. If you're so obliged to share and subscribe, please do that. And even if you do none of these things, thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Again, please hype up the video. That's the new thing on this algorithm from YouTube. All right, talk to you later. Peace.